from America's finest city. This is Real Talk San Diego on ESPN 1700.
What's happening, gang? San Diegans, you are back live in the Secret Stash. What are we doing here? Tracking down some cool local people, talking about some cool local stuff. I'll say important local stuff for the theme of this show. Maybe leaving them a story or two. That's always the goal, right? With the intention, though, to leave you a little better than how you found you. I am your host, Jesse Abinus, co-founder of the GreenHouse Group. We're helping folks get into and out of home. So we're a real estate consulting and mortgage planning firm located right down here in the heart of San Diego, moving people with purpose. And I'm flanked today by a familiar face. I got my man, very well-known friend of the show. Okay, what is this, probably like about your 10th, I would say, appearance?
At least. And I hang out when I'm not even on the air.
Right.
Just in the hallway.
They kick you out, I think, every Tuesday at about noon.
It's weird, but I'll do it.
When you barge in on someone else's lunch at the cafeteria. Jeremy Beck, of course, by the way. Jeremy Beck.
Hey, buddy.
Co-founder of the GreenHouse Group.
I'm the co and the founder, right? So we put together the GreenHouse Group, 12 years ago at this point? Probably
at least.
The idea of it 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And my job is on that financing side so that you don't have to come up with the cash to make those buying moves, and we help you finance with aggressive, smart, and strategic plans to help you save the most money while you're navigating your way through this environment.
Now, the Secret Stash is our Tuesday perennial. So we always got you locked in from 10 a.m. till noon every Tuesday here at ESPN Radio 1700. But once a month, we do something a little special. And lucky have it be you that today is that day. We get requests all the time from folks right now who are on either side of that conversation. Buyers, sellers, even people trying to get some money in between, who are right now, I'd say, more than ever before, I'd say protract that back maybe 18 to 24 months.
Yep.
More nervous than ever before about exactly how the market is behaving, right? Because they came off that huge summer swell, and now the rates are still kind of hanging on, and everybody's sitting there going, okay, what up? Like, they don't want to be left in the crosshairs holding the bill on something that might be shifting down. Is there talk about a bubble? So that's why we got Jeremy in the studio today. We're going to do a monthly segment we like to call the Real Estate State of the Union. You look very stately today in your tie.
Thank you. I dressed up.
And speaking of ties and looking stately, by the way, you can ask us any question that is pertinent to maybe where we're finding you right now over at our Twitter handle, which is Follow the Stash, because we're streaming this live right now. So you can check in here, or if you catch it in the rebroadcast over at secretstashradio.com. Jeremy, let's get into the numbers, brother.
Let's do it.
We got some numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers.
This is fun.
This is fun. And the reason why it's fun is because we got some sexy numbers. It's always funner to talk about sexy numbers, right?
Yep.
So first off, let's get macro with it. So existing home prices, we're killing it right now. So, and actually us, meaning the United States, is actually killing it as well. They're up almost 6%.
It's crazy.
And the West is the best. The left coast.
You knew it.
Crushing it at 8.4, which is head and shoulders above the next biggest, which is the South at only 7. So doing good on numbers.
Yep.
Does that tell you a story at all? Is that
a little bit
more
broad.
on par with what you thought?
Broad. Yeah.
Broad? Keep it broad? Keep it broad. Which broad? Like Surfer Brad? Nothing?
Brad Pitt.
All right, cool. Whoa, not bad.
Dang.
Early point for that. Okay, year-over-year change, doing good as well, 5 and 3. Actually, percent change when you consider all of the macro elements. And I'm talking about not just like the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac little bundle, but also like the jumbo loans and the big guys. We're actually up 7.4%. Year over year. Now, that's an interesting stat. Why interesting stat guy who does the numbers?
Why is the year over year an interesting stat?
No. Why that number being so high? At least that's my interpretation.
Well, I mean,
why is that most interesting?
That's appreciation, right? And what we're looking at right now is people's ownership stake going up.
Well, no question. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy, for that. Let me share with you what point I was leading to. Okay, that wasn't fair of me to set you up.
I lost
like
my cue card.
What I see is that a lot of folks right now think that big run-up, skull-crushing run-up is kind of behind us. Like their buddies that already got in that are bragging at the cocktail parties.
Right.
They're the benefactors of that big run-up. Dude, almost 8%, nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah.
Like that's still sexy gains.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And what occurs to me is that it's the sense that things are going the wrong way or
right.
about to. And I know there's some cool numbers that we're going to talk about a little later that kind of flush that out against other situations.
That was my I got to set my guest up for success.
Now,
that was my fault.
We've been partners a long time, man. I know how it works around here. Yeah.
So, Key, let's keep rolling on this.
Right.
So when you look back and you protract over the rest of the country, we're seeing a lot of sexy numbers as well. So, for example, we actually got beat out. Year over year, Nevada, higher than us. Colorado, almost 10%.
That's crazy.
Oregon, 8.7%. By the way, conspiracy theory sidebar. Colorado, Oregon. Is there something to do with the marijuana?
I think there's a little tech boom going on in Colorado as well.
Is that true?
I think so.
Yeah, they're building a bunch of big
Not
things
a
out there,
national
I think.
expert, but yeah.
Yeah, and then Washington, almost 9% as well.
Yep.
So here's the little the story between the numbers that I'm seeing with that. So we're still looking pretty good, right? We're not quite the best. New York, actually, and South Carolina doing good over on the right coast as well. But this brings up a good point about relocation. So if you are Colorado or if you are Nevada or even Oregon or Washington for that, you might be able to cash out right now and have your money trail a little bit stronger to relocate down to California, right?
Which is always a challenging conversation for people who are moving in out of state. They're like, oh my God, the prices here, because it just doesn't translate typically. But now we're seeing this equity appreciation in other states. This could have a real impact.
And when it's trending actually faster at a faster clip than what's happening here right now,
Sure.
like in San Diego, for example, you get a little bit more traction on your money. And the reason why that's a critical point is because it's timely, right?
It's sell high, buy low, right?
And also next month when we do our State of the Union wrap up, it might not be the same. So there's this
Sure.
little element called time, which seems to play a big role in this conversation. Good. So the relocation game, it could be on swole right now because of these national numbers being
good
so
point.
good. Quarter over quarter. Now, the quarter over quarter is only 1.2, and the month over month is only 0.5. Now, what's that tell you?
So we're just seeing that a change is happening slowly and consistently, I think. I think that's one way to translate that. So if you look at, if you have a 12-month price change in the 6s or the 7s, it's 0.5% a month. So that's the expectation.
Right, and so if you go back like quarter over quarter, we're actually right on pace.
And we're still going.
Right. So 1.2 quarter over quarter, but then the month is where it falls off ever so slightly. That actually drops under that mean to only to 0.5%, right? So there could be a theme right now. Maybe some of those naysayers could get a little emboldened from that stat to say that we're kind of sloughing off a little bit, chilling out a little bit in the micro capacity anyway. Interesting to see, though, what that theme or trend is going to look like moving into the very unpredictable fall shoulder season.
Fall shoulder season.
The shoulder season, yeah. The shoulder seasons of spring and fall.
I didn't know that was a term.
Just look at me, dude. I'm dancing.
You're
over
wiggling.
Here for you.
I wish everyone could see that.
I'm dancing. They can't see that if they'd be streaming in live right now. Okay, so here's the one that I love the most, though. So I know we're digging into these numbers. I want to get through these numbers quick.
Yeah.
The price and time since the peak. Now, this is a big one. How many people do you know you talk to on a regular basis that seem to think that we're back up to where the numbers were before the bust?
Definitely.
Most, right?
Yep.
Well, interestingly enough, not necessarily the case. In California, we're actually still 9.3% under where we were at our peak, which goes back to, May of 2006, I think.
Wow.
So that's an interesting stat because it leaves you with the you're the one who does the math, but it leaves you with the task of going back and then looking back over basically the last 10 years and saying if that's the case and we're not necessarily in that bubble yet because we're not back up to where it was when it showed it could do it in the first place, minus the fact that we're actually doing the loans on people who can afford them now.
Right.
Versus the stated income fog of glass
Good point.
and get a loan for $500,000 temperature, which was back in 2006.
And I think that is how one of the things that when I meet with people, let's say it this way, sometimes people have had huge equity appreciation. Their home is bounced. We've talked to a couple people recently, and I just met with someone yesterday who's still a little underwater, and I was surprised. They bought in 05, 06 range, and I was surprised because I just don't see it very often. So what this says to me, though, California is a very unique state in that there's a lot of different pockets in terms of extreme wealth and prosperity and density and very low recovery phases.
I want the truth. You only bring it when you come, Jer.
That's it.
Yeah.
I wrote that one down.
here's something that is, I think, part and parcel to the point you're exactly making. Like if you go back into Case Shiller, right? So Case Shiller, these are the guys that try to track the stuff for all of us, right? So, January 2014, we were off the chains. They were up at 13.2 or 5 or something like that back then around for year-over-year price changes. Right now, in January 2015, it was down to 4.6. And then basically from February till July, it was very cool, steady at about 5% even.
Yeah.
Now, if you look that juxtaposed from January, you're like, oh, the market stinks right now. But then if you go back historically, you realize that 5% appreciation annum is par for the course. Mm-hmm. So after all of that onslaught that we picked back up and we had these crazy double digits, 13, after all that happened, we're right back to par for the course.
I think this is the reason, this chart right here, these numbers that we're talking about right here is the reason that there's a little bit of trepidation in the powers that be to raise interest rates right now, because we're not seeing extreme runaway inflation. We're seeing normalized equity appreciation, and they don't want to crush the market.
Yeah. So if you think about that, 5%'s great.
I'll take it.
It's good for owners, right? Give them some options, and it's also great for affordability as well,
right?
Which is something we're going to get into a little bit later in the show. So question, gang, is this a housing bubble? Well, my contention, if I'm going to borrow it from, what is this, 8 or 9? We actually grabbed these quotes. By the way, you can check these quotes out in the show notes at Secret Stash Radio. We've got everybody from Christopher Thornburg, founder of Beacon Economics. Housing market is far from overheated. Ray Tordo, Harvard lecturer. I would not characterize the multi-housing market as a bubble, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are the leading economists basically saying we're good. We're good right now. So, gang, coming up, now we got the whole bubble nonsense stuff behind us. Let's get into what this means for us here in San Diego locally, heading into the very curious shoulder months, like we talked about a second ago, Jer, of fall. And the biggest mistake a buyer's going to make right now, or hopefully you won't after you hear this, and sellers, you're not exempt, biggest mistake you're about to make if you don't watch out as well. The numbers are going to back it all up right after this, gang. We'll be right back.